Sir Kannan Gopalakrishnan. He was working as a senior architect at Engineering Design Research Centre, L&T Construction, India's largest construction company. He's also worked on projects ranging from institutional buildings to international airports, apartment complexes to aircraft hangars. He's also attended 3 international conferences and 2 national conferences, and has also presented technical papers at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and the MSRIT, Bangalore. He's also won the national championship at Archaman at the India's largest architecture quiz. Sir Kannan Gopalakrishnan currently runs a design firm, Habitat Design Studio, and he is also a visiting faculty at the renowned architecture schools in Tamil Nadu.
Welcome to UGC lecture series. This is AR 6502 History of Architecture and Culture 5. We are reviewing industrialization in unit number 2. If you remember lecture number 14, we saw the works of famed architect Victor Hota, and in this episode, episode 15, we will be looking at the works and life of Van der Velde and Hector Guimard. Henry Clement van der Velde was a Belgian painter, architect and an interior designer. Along with the famed architect Victor Hota, Paul Hanker, he was one of the main founders of Art Nouveau style in Belgium. He spent most of his career in Germany, and he made a decisive influence on German architecture in the early 20th century. In 1892, he abandoned his painting and got into interior design as his primary career. He also parallelly worked with silver, chinaware, cutlery, fashion design, carpet, fabric, upholsteries, furniture and other things. He designed the interiors and furniture for the famous influential L'Art Nouveau gallery in Paris in 1895. If you could quickly brush up your memory and remember, L'Art Nouveau was the name of the gallery which started the Art Nouveau movement, which spearheaded the whole thing. And this was Van der Velde who designed the furniture and interiors of this gallery in 1895. So, this is what gave the movement its first designation at Art Nouveau. He was very strongly influenced by John Ruskin and William Morris's arts and crafts movement in England. He applied the curved line in an abstract style. He was probably the first person to use the curved line in a very abstract manner. By 1910, Art Nouveau was on the decline, so his works too had significantly demarcated from Art Nouveau by then. Van der Velde, during the time period between 1905 to 1910 in the early 20th century, he was very busy working with the Deutsche Werkbund. He, along with another interesting personality called Muthesius, both worked with the Deutsche Werkbund. When they were in Deutsche Werkbund was simple: to make Germany very great and advanced in terms of technical advancement with the help of artistic talent. They wanted to produce products and any kind of industrial art and machinery with the help of talent which can be reproduced or rather mass produced. There was a huge rift between Van der Velde and Muthesius, where Muthesius wanted to promote huge machine made talent, and he wanted to convert everything into machinery, and he wanted to mass produce, thereby reducing the amount of human intensity and amount of human labor or amount of human craft put inside each object. But Van der Velde was strictly against it. He said arts and crafts and people who wanted to work with hand, their talent should be recognized equally. So, there was a huge rift, and naturally the Deutsche Werkbund accepted Muthesius' idea because it can be mass produced, and they were looking at huge economic benefits on that side. So, Van der Velde's idea was rejected, and that is why Van der Velde became very popular and in the Art Nouveau and arts and crafts style of architecture, because he was heavily influenced by the Art Nouveau style and John Ruskin, William Morris and these English people. So, that is why he adopted the curved line in the abstract form. He mentored the famed Belgian architect Victor Bourgeois. He designed the Bloemenwerf. It is the name of his residence, which he built in 1895 along with the Paris L'Art Nouveau. It is located at Uccle, Belgium, Wells designed the house, its interiors and everything in it. One thing which we should understand about Van de Velde was how he insisted on passing on his knowledge to someone else. He could have easily taken all his knowledge, accumulated it within himself, without mentoring anybody, without teaching anybody, without showing the way to other people, stealing their projects, keeping all his clients to himself. He could have done that, but instead he chose to develop other architects in other areas too. He mentored Victor Bourgeois. He reiterates this one single largest purpose of every organism: to transfer knowledge to another organism. So, hats off Van de Velde for doing that. This was his residence. Let us take a detailed look at the Blumenwerf. He was inspired partly by William Morris's Red House on one side, and he was also influenced by the movement which was going on by Victor Hota and other people, and which made him give everything in the house, from the door furnishings to the knobs to wallpapers to the patterns and embellishments and the flowering linear shapes, to everything in this house was designed specifically by him. He had a well designed plan which had a central 2-story hall with zenithal light. At the first floor, he had a gallery around the hall which had entrances to all the rooms. Van de Velde personally designed all the furniture. He went to an extent that he even designed all the dresses of his wife which she was to wear if she is in the house. Look at the amount of detail that Van de Velde has gone into designing the house experience as such. He didn't design a building, he designs experiences. If you want to classify Blumenwerf, it is a farmhouse, a suburban villa plus a country residence together. This became a target for all the middle income age group and also artists, and he made a lot of copies of his own drawing room in various other buildings which his clients insisted. This is the plan of the Blumenwerf. He made such a big impact with his first artistic manifesto that he had to repeat his dining room suite and drawing room suite for quite a number of new clients. Seats too, furniture, represented variations on the originally simply woven straw, were upholstered in leather or fabric for the much more richer clients. Although he personally was satisfied with ash wood, which was an unpretentious and serviceable wood, his clients sometimes demanded exotic woods such as patchouli, mahogany or even oak. However, in 1892, he abandoned all his painting in favor of furniture and interior design. He got into the interior design element. That is when he designed the Werkbund Theatre. Van de Velde designed several buildings for the Bauhaus campus in Weimar, Germany. Just as I mentioned earlier, he spent most of his career in Germany and made a very decisive influence in German architecture in the early 20th century. This theatre, Werkbund Theatre, was built on the occasion of the Werkbund exhibition in the year 1914. It was unfortunately destroyed during the World War I the very next year. It was a modern building with reinforced concrete skeleton and an internal theatre of which was extremely variable in character. From a functional, rational architecture point of view, theatre simultaneously established a secure domain of space and volume. Here you can see the exterior and interior. The straight line was used, which purified and emphasized the ornament, artistic expression in the Werkbund Theatre. He was able to create a theatrical space which was flexible, which was able to accommodate a wide variety of theatrical performances, ranging from very modest works like symbolists, realistic representations that are more suited to the stage, to large performances. He also came across the work of the famed Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, early at the exhibition of La 20. His works in the Werkbund Theatre shows a great influence of Van Gogh's painting in his architecture. This is the plan of the Werkbund Theatre. Someone wrote about the Werkbund Theatre that the auditorium made a temple-like impression. He had something of the tart seriousness of Buddhist architecture. The color tones is based on scale extending from amarnaths to bright vermilion. The deliberately restrained decorative design appeared as of the incense and patina of centuries damped. He tried to get the colors in orange hues and earthly tones, and this was often compared to Eastern architecture. Let us take a look at another famed architect, Hector Guimard. Hector Guimard is now one of the best known representatives of the French Art Nouveau style. Not the entire Art Nouveau we have other people in Belgium, but for the French Art Nouveau style, Hector Guimard is one of the best known representatives. He studied decorative arts and architecture in Paris, where he later established his own practice. He got inspired by some of the new architectural theories that were circulating in the 1800s, late 1800s. He produced some exceptional avant-garde works. In particular, the radical ideas of French architect Leduc and the sinuous architect of Belgian Victor Hota greatly influenced his designs. 1895, Hector Guimard visits Hotel Tassel in Brussels. This was the first Art Nouveau building. Then he came back. He did a complete reevaluation of his artistic approach. He thought of designing more decorative works using fluid, unusual lines, vibrant curves, which are directly inspired from the nature. Add light and contrast by the use of different materials, because he used wood, stone, iron, glass, etc. They are the most representatives of organic and floral Art Nouveau style in France, and this would later come to be known as the Guimard style. He was highly criticized for his kind of work because for a very long time he had worked with as a assistant professor in architecture, and he was the assistant professor of perspective drawing of the girls batch of the female batch of the school, and he was working there for more than 10 years, and that is when he was appointed as professor of perspective drawing. And after that he got his first project, and his first project was Castle Beranger, which he designed in 1898. It was called deranged by his contemporaries, but there were a few people who saw what he saw in the buildings, and that is when he had designed this building in a very different manner than the contemporary architects, and that is when he got a lot of commissions for his other projects, including the Villa Bleuette, the Coilio House, Castle Watt, Castle Ogrival, Hotel Mezzara, Synagogue de la Poria, Paris, a couple of apartment buildings and a lot of houses, villas and other similar buildings. So he was looking at all these projects, and that is when a very important project came into his disposal, and there were a lot of people who were against him. The press was against him because his personality, his work, everything was very different from the usual architects at that particular point of time, and his relationship with the clergyman who commissioned him to build the concert hall was again very famous with the press. And he completed the concert hall in arguably the most complete expression of his Art Nouveau style, and it soon became acrimonious by the time of its completion when early 20th century, which was 1901, and the clergyman immediately left France, and within 5 years the magnificent concert venue was demolished, and it is now only known by photographs and articles from art journals. And he also designed a large number of Paris metro entrances, and a large number of Paris metro entrances were destroyed and demolished, except the one at Porte Dauphine, which is still standing, and there are a couple of reconstructed ones at Abbissy and Châtelet. These are some of the fully enclosed ones that are standing. All other ones are completely destroyed. The greatest example of Hector Guimard is the Paris metro entrances, constructed like the Crystal Palace out of interchangeable prefabricated cast iron glass parts. Guimard created his metro systems in opposition to the current taste of French classical culture. When the whole of France was going classical, Guimard was given the project to design all of Paris metro entrances. That is when he said, okay, I am not going to do classical architecture, I am going to do something more inspired from nature. So, that is when he started creating this. Look at the entrance arch which he has designed, arising out of like a tree branch which holds a name tag, lights, maps, railings. He designed everything in Art Nouveau style. He even designed the typography. Look at the floral patterns in the arch, use of different materials, iron, glass, wood. Guimard systems flourished, which emerged overnight like the manifestation of some organic force, sinuous cast iron tentacles erupting from the subterranean labyrinth to support a variety of barriers, pergolas, maps, hooded lights, canopies, etc. It looked as if it was growing out of the ground itself. The entrance of the metro station at Porte Dauphine, which was designed by Guimard. This is the drawing for that. In 1899, the CMP launched a competition for the street architecture of the soon to be metro. The roofed variety, which is known as kiosks, feature a fan shaped glass awning and an enclosure of opaque paneling decorated in floral motifs. The most impressive of these were built in Bastille and Etoile on opposite sections of the inaugural line. This is what he was talking about. The roofed ones with glass fan shaped roofing and paneling all around, or sometimes the open type like this. The roof type were built at Etoile and Bastille. Both of them were torn down in the 1960s. Today, only two of these kiosks survive, one at Porte Dauphine and Abbesse, and the Abbesse one was later moved to Deville in 1974. The competition was floated. The winner of the competition was an architect, Henri Duret, but the CMP's president, Adrien Bernard, favored the municipality architect Jean-Camille Formige. Later, he proposed the Art Nouveau architect Hector Guimard, which was agreed by the municipality. Guimard designed two types of entrances, one with the roof and one without the roof. Built in cast iron, they make heavy reference to symbolism of plants and nature. 141 such entrances were constructed between 1900 and 1912, out of which a surprising 86 still exist, in spite of France being in major wars at that particular time, and after that 86 still exist. This is another look at the hooded metro entrance. Let us take a look at another building, Hotel Guimard. Hotel Guimard, at the first view, one is struck by the architect's care in designing and position of his windows and balconies. Defying rhythm and reason, the windows are each of a different cut. Each of the windows are placed at a location where one would least expect it. They were placed without any rhyme or reason. Take a look at that window on the third story, a quarter of which is situated on the precise corner of the building, and which appears to be haughtily indifferent to the classically arranged bay on the story below. Of particular note in this regard is the long fourth story balcony surmounted by two lanterns of the type frequently used by Guimard. Here, the Gothic influenced asymmetry of Leduc is still written with the later Guimard's beige material palette in a recognizably Art Nouveau idiom. Like many houses constructed by architects for themselves, this site is very difficult, nothing but a triangular scrap at the corner of two streets. There are a lot of these streets in Paris, because Paris was designed as a city which had radiating streets from the Arc de Triomphe. There are about 16 streets which radiate from the Arc de Triomphe, and when these streets radiate, They form triangular or trapezoid shapes between the streets, which means the corner plots are always triangular or very oddly shaped. There are many such sites in Paris, throughout Paris, and these sites were very difficult to build. Hotel Juimar is on one of these very difficult sites to build. The challenge of the site seems to have awakened Juimar's imagination, because at the hotel what he has done is he links the conventional elements of the Parisian apartment building. He took out all the elements that a regular Parisian apartment building has: bow windows, balconies, huge heavy entrance doors, flat walls, and monuments of explosive whimsy like castle like cylinder to the left of the entrance. These are the elements which he has taken from the Parisian apartment building, and he has created a gentle link between all these things. You can almost isolate the components which would not be out of place. Taking a look at some of the close-up shots, here you can see the heavy entrance. Again, here it looks like casually something is growing out of the wall itself, right from the ground. The furniture, the ceilings, the railings, typical Juimar. Let's take a look at what we learnt in this episode. We understood the life and works of famous architect Hector Juimar, understood his contribution towards the Art Nouveau style, understanding the life and works of famous architect Van de Velde. With that, we should be able to answer some of these questions. Explain the early life and situations that led Velde to become an accomplished architect. Explain the metropolitan entrances of Juimar with sketches. Explain with sketches contributions of Velde in the field of architecture. Explain the extent which Velde went to design his house. Look forward to meeting you with another interesting architect in the next episode. Until then, thank you.